All right, class, welcome back to Chalkboard Finances. Everybody, please take your seats. I know it's the start of a new week, and it's the first week, official long week in April, so we're going to get going this week. Last video, I talked about tracking your spending, and hopefully you did that. I did go back on my banking for the last month of March, and I went through and I tracked all of our expenses over the month. So I just went through my bank statement and I itemized every spending for each day. Now, you could have just gone through the bank statement itself, but again, I asked you to actually write it down because I think that just helps you get a little bit better understanding of your money and what you're spending your money on. So today we're going to be talking about, as you might be able to see behind me, making a budget. Now, some of you who may have never done this before, or if you have, maybe you've gotten away from what your budget was at that time. I know me personally, my wife and I made a budget years ago, but we don't really look at that every day or month or whatever, but we kind of have an idea of what our spending is and how much we allocate money towards certain areas. So today, you need to, if you didn't do the first step of last video of tracking your spending, you need to go back and do that because that's going to help you make the budget. So what your assignment is for today is, based on your tracking of your expenses, you're going to make a budget. And here's what I did. I went through all of the items that I listed for the month of March, and I categorized them into specific areas. So I had income for the month, and then I went and I listed every account transaction, and I categorized it into one of a few things: savings, housing expenses, vehicle expenses, food, which was a big one for us, and I broke that out into groceries and then eating out, insurance, then I had tithe, entertainment, childcare, and then I had miscellaneous, something that didn't necessarily fall into those categories, that were maybe just like one-time expenses on something. So that is what you'll need to do, is make a budget. Categorize all your expenses for the month. Go back in March and do that if you haven't done so already. And then categorize them. List them into all of those different categories. And for me, when I went back and looked at how much we were spending in certain areas, I realized, okay, maybe there's some items in here that we maybe didn't need to necessarily buy, or maybe we don't need to eat out as much, or it gives you an idea of where your money is actually going. So make the budget, track your expenses, and see where your money is going. At the end of the month, ideally, you should have more money left over at the end of the month than what you spent. So in other words, your income should be more than your expenses. And the only way to know that is by tracking your expenses and then making the budget. So if you tracked your expenses, what did you see? Did you see that you were spending more than what you thought you were? Maybe you'll see and you'll realize, oh wow, I didn't realize I was spending this much money on clothes or eating out or entertainment. The other thing that can really sometimes eat into your budget and your expenses are those online purchases. It's really easy to just buy something on Amazon or online shopping, and you just automatically buy it, and it's easy to do. I was going back through my expenses and I saw there were a few times where we had purchased something online and I forgot what that was for, or categorizing in what expense it should be listed in. So those sometimes can really eat into your expenses and your budget. So keep track of those sneaky little line items from your bank account when you're going through the statement in March. So let me know what you found to be a greater expense than you thought it was going to be. What surprised you? Maybe you actually spent less than you thought you did. Maybe you don't spend as much as um, you thought you might have spent for the month. Maybe you're spending way more than you should, but the only way to know that for sure is by tracking your expenses and then making a budget. So work on that today. Work on that budget. And for me, it took me about 10 minutes or so to go through my bank statement and list all of my transactions. And then it took me about another 15 minutes or so to actually categorize those expenses into the budget, into the specific categories. And it was interesting. It was a good task for me to do. It helped me get a better idea again of our money and where it's going. So do that. Let me know how it goes, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.